brother. I'm Hindol Sengupta. I am delighted to have an old friend, I would say, join this conversation today. Rupa Dutta is a senior civil servant. She also served with great distinction as the principal economic advisor to the Ministry of Commerce of the Government of India. That's where I got to know her during my stint building the research arm at Invest India, and we got along really well. And she's absolutely the right person to ask some of the key questions that I'm going to put to her today. What is going to happen? And indeed, how should India respond to the tariffs threat that Donald Trump keeps throwing at us? Rupa Datta is the right. We've had comments about this from, political watchers, international experts, strategists. But Rupa Datta is the perfect person to talk in technical terms and what these tariffs really mean for the Indian economy. And I want to thank her for her time. She's at the moment serving in the Exim Bank, and I want to thank her for her time to take us through this rather important issue. Rupa, welcome.
Thank you, Hindul. Hindul, as he's already said, is an old friend. I know him for quite a few years when he was in Invest India and we were working together for several projects. It's a pleasure to be here, and I would try my best to share my thoughts in the matter, because this is a very important perspective of our policy, which we need to work on. I mean, that's what I feel, that once we work on it and take the right kind of steps, things will definitely be improving, and we'll handle these redress these issues in best possible manner through the right kind of policies and incentives by Government of India. So thank you once again, Hindul, for calling.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. Let me begin then, Rupa, by asking you that there is a lot of speculation about what will be the real impact of these tariffs on the Indian GDP, on Indian growth. Some people say 30 basis points, some people say 60 basis points. Now we can keep debating the exact numbers, but overall, where do you see the impact really coming? In which sectors? What do you think will be the real impact?
So, in terms of basis points, I would rather not comment on that, because that would be let the growth economists work on it. But what I felt, and I would like to mention that there would be, especially our labor-intensive sectors like leather, like textiles, and my and the sector where I have worked for last 7-8 years, or rather last 10-12 years, gems and jewellery. Gems and jewellery definitely would get a bad hit, because while there is a saying that this demand is inelastic, and people who buy jewellery would be probably still be buying jewellery. It's like gold, see how the price has increased, but people are buying gold. But you look at cut and polished diamonds. That is the maximum. I think out of $29 billion, about $25 billion are exports of to US. 20 total export of gems and jewelry of $29 billion. $25 billion are to US, and largely cut and polish. This sector is likely to get a hit. And let me tell you something in this regard. This is it's not only a few large jewelers. I have handled this sector extensively, and I can tell you, it's got huge amount of about 6 million people working in the sector all over, domestic and both for exports. And largely dominated by MSME. So the MSME sector, and the labor employment, we have to take the right kind of steps. Otherwise, there is likely to be an impact. So these presently, electronics and pharmaceuticals have been exempted. We'll see if at all tariffs come there. But and for other products, the feeling is, I'll come to that when you ask that question. Other products, the feeling is that it's at 5% difference vis-a-vis our competitors. But gems and jewelry likely to get a hit. So we have I was interacting with GDPC and other organizations, and there are a few steps being suggested, and I'm sure at the right kind of levels it will be adhered to. If you want, I can outline a couple of them at least.
Yes,
Just
so
give me half a
question I want to ask you, in fact, now
minute.
that you've explained exactly what the contours of this hit might be, could you talk a little bit about how this hit would manifest on the ground and what are the few things India could do, especially in the gems and jewelry sector?
Yeah. So hit, as I've already said, would manifest, it would impact the MSME sector. It would affect employment, and all across the country, not only while Mumbai and Gujarat are Maharashtra and Gujarat are the main exporting hubs, but the domestic sector is present all over the country. So, and domestic, like industry and commerce, they are complements to each other. So the domestic sector is the back end to the exports, and employment, especially in across, if you go to places like Surat and all, are likely to get hit. There were discussions where what I understood was the exporters may move to countries like Thailand. They will relocate their factories. But what happens to the employment scenario here? That is what is, and these are I'll come to textiles later, but let me start with gems and jewellery. So some of the points which have been, recommendations made, and I know government will start working on them, and this will be presented at the appropriate levels. One is, and these are some of the steps which have been requested for similar steps taken during the COVID period. Deferment of interest on working capital facilities. So because access to working capital is a major issue for all exporters. All these meetings which have been taken at the highest level with different sectors, this issue is coming up very strongly, that, improve access to working capital facilities. So, so lending institutions may be permitted to allow a deferment of interest of 6 months from 1st August 2025 to 1st January 2026, a bit like what was done during COVID. Allowing undertaking of reverse job work by units located in SEZs. We have this huge, you look at that mega CFC in SEEPs. I think Bharat Ratnam it's called. And so, the kind of work done, the machines are amazing. We did a study with Exim Bank, so I can tell you clearly. So here, let these continue to do the work. Please allow some reverse job work to SEZs. SEZs units would be able to utilize their machinery and engage their labor for manufacture and supply of jewellery in the DTA area. Allow sales in the DTA area. Cancellation of orders will cause blockage of working capital and may result in the unit becoming NPA. So please allow the SEZ units to sell in the DTA area. Then there are other issues of pre-shipment finance relief. The bank should be encouraged to extend pre-shipment loan to by due dates at least extended by 90 days. There's another important scheme, and this, there's been a lot of discussion. Let's wait and see. We know that the Export Promotion Mission is coming up, which would recommend the interest equalization scheme. This interest equalization scheme, in fact, I was there in commerce and we had initiated the scheme. I also used to look after finance, where a 3 to 5% kind of subsidy is given with a more focus on MSME exporters. So this scheme, I think, got over just last year. So there's a lot of request for initiating this scheme and then building it over for next 5 years. Likely to be an important part of export promotion mission, besides other components like maybe a e-wallet, maybe trade finance, maybe trade factoring. These would be other components. We have to see what happens. It is still being finalized. But interest equalization scheme is important, and maybe some relief liquidity packages. And ensure that ratings remain stable for the G&J sector by the rating agency. But most important, I would say, is basically it's all access to finance and allowing a sale in the domestic tariff areas. Interest equalization would play a key role in this regard. This is for gems and jewellery.
We come to the other sectors in just a moment, Rupa. I want to ask you a question, which is that the Prime Minister has just said yesterday, encouraging people to buy, especially as the festive season draws in, to buy as much as possible from local manufacturers and to buy local products. Now, considering the amount of demand, and almost like you began by saying, almost inelastic demand in gems and jewelry and gold, especially in India, do you think domestic demand or an upsurge in domestic demand could in some ways mitigate some of the damage of the tariffs, or is that being too optimistic?
Feel that yes, some steps taken to promote domestic demand would help, but then exports, while nowadays I think merchandise exports are only 11% of our GDP, but exports are also important. I mean, it's very, I would say, taking the domestic sector sales, while important, may be an easy way out. You can always think that why do we need to export? We have a very large domestic market, but no. I mean, we can't. You remember, Hindol, when we used to, there was a word called autarky. We can't be in an autarkic situation. So we have to be connected to the world. And then, and let me tell you, this is my perspective, not what you. Besides cut and polished, for improving gem and jewelry exports, of course, take advantage of the Indo-UK FTA, look at the likely FTA happening with EU, and also focus on other products, which now that sector has started doing. Besides cut and polished diamonds, looking at studded jewelry, looking at lightweight jewelry, looking at gold jewelry. Imitation might again get affected. That's the feeling I got. And cut and polished. But looking at studded gold, lightweight jewelry, silver jewelry, these are areas to explore to other markets, domestic of course, to explore to other markets, and also see how, if we can produce good quality products even in US market in spite of the tariff. If you have a good enough product, our skills are world legendary. I mean, known throughout the world. I still feel we can. I mean, the challenge can be mitigated. We can face the world.
Let's talk a little bit about other sectors. You were about to talk about textiles, Rupa. Let me take you there. Considering what's also happening in Bangladesh, where do you see the textile sector? There were some optimistic voices which were suggesting that since Bangladesh is in turmoil, and even before that, if it moves out of LDC status, India could have a real chance in competing and indeed outcompeting Bangladesh in textiles. Now this tariff thing has again come. Where do you see that? Where do you see that sector pan out?
In that regard, what I understand, I mean, already meetings have been held at the highest level with textile exporters. So, and this has been reported in newspapers also. So, there are these schemes like ROTTEP and ROSCL. So, they roll over these schemes for 5 years, also allow GST and other related issues to be sorted out. There's another point which is coming out strongly is that there are interaction of central government, which is done regularly for policy matters, interaction of central government with state governments to sort out the pending dues which exporters have across various state governments. And so once that those pending dues are sorted out, in fact, there's also a demand, I can tell you, that even in some of the older schemes of Department of Commerce, sort out all the pending dues, then the liquidity problem is I think, sorted out to a certain extent, and the exporters are able to look at newer orders. Now, see, for textiles, for these man-made fibers, technical textiles, these are doing well, no doubt about it. But if we are looking at alternate markets like EU, Europe, UK and all, there would be these issues like fashion considerations, size issues, and the kind of products, kind of fabrics used and all. So it would not be very easy, but I'm sure if we want, we can, kind of try to obviate it. But giving the right kind of packages to exporters, including, some good amount of, some way of handling the working capital and the fund related issues. Look, developing strategies for each sector is very important. This has been emphasized. Each sector, it has to be a sector-specific strategy. While we will look at, reducing logistics times, improving quality products, looking at sustainability, these are overall issues. But each sector has to handle its own issues and look at specific strategies. That is important.
Talk to us about another. I also want to talk to you a little bit about another area which I think is of critical interest, which is, in fact, this area of pharmaceuticals. A lot of people believe that, in fact, a hit in the, especially on the generic side in pharmaceuticals, finally will hurt the US customer, and the US might want to reconsider this sector. How do you see that pan out?
I have not, I don't have a very detailed knowledge about it, but as you were saying, comments, that is why probably pharma and electronics have been exempted as of now. I think they're in the section 232, if I'm not mistaken, where it is not country specific, it's product specific tariffs which are being imposed. But pharma, since I think India exports at least about 40% of the basic, generic drugs to US. So obviously, the drugs are going to, if you put tariffs, and these would be passed on to consumers. So the basic drugs and medicines are going to be expensive, which may not be politically a very feasible alternate for the American government. So I have a feeling that is probably why, presently these have been exempted. They're probably seeing what is the effect, and then take a call. They're checking out the impact and then take a call.
When you look at the kind of tariffs that Trump is introducing, of course, some people are suggesting that the final tariff may yet, after negotiations, be much lower. But we have to discuss what exists on the table today. Now, when you see the tariff spread around the world, India compared to, say, a country like Vietnam and others, how do you see this play out? I mean, I remember when, we were at Invest India and you were at the Ministry of Commerce, we used to talk a lot about the China plus one strategy. Now, that strategy finally seemed to be coming together a little bit, especially in electronics, in areas like mobile phones and so on and so forth. Do you think that will take a hit in this scenario? Already, China was trying to squeeze it by not allowing labor, not allowing major machinery, and so on and so forth. But now that the tariffs have also come into play, do you suspect there's going to be a hit on that entire China plus one play?
See, what with the PLI schemes and electronics has now become, I would say, and especially iPhones and Apple has become a kind of crown jewel, for jewel in the crown for India. And that has resulted in the movement of all these semiconductor companies, and we are looking at this whole value chain, so to say. So I would say it's not so much as Vietnam, which where the overall tariff rate is 20%, or Taiwan is 20%, but somewhere. But there are a lot of talks of Trump even talking about, taking away the. I mean, Apple has been asked not to have plants in India. So it depends on how these companies CEOs perceive. I mean, they are basically businessmen, so they would take the decisions on an overall perspective, not only from a political perspective. Let's see how it works out, but the kind of investments they have made, the kind of, the ancillary industries which have grown, and especially the entire south of India, which is doing so well in terms of these entire electronics industry. I mean, besides others, this whole components, subcomponents. I have a feeling that let's wait and see. I don't think there'll be any short-term decisions taken. There would be, and as you were saying, we all, I think, still feel that there would be negotiations done, and probably tariffs would come to a reasonable level. How and what? As it has been said, obviously our national interests would have to be protected, the agriculture, the MSME sector, these would have, and there are, we all know what are some of the internal issues. Let's see how the negotiations happen. It's a skill and art which everybody needs to know and learn and practice. And it's not specifically electronics, but the issues of negotiations, as we are now seeing, is also, and we know, Hindol, that when we were working together, and that it was not only goods and services and investment, but now there are issues of sustainability, labor issues, gender issues, so many other newer issues which are coming up. So it has to be a whole package which has to be negotiated. Maybe we start with a limited deal and then see how it works out. I mean, after all, UK, you were also there, and we were all there, and took a couple 3-4 years, but finally it is done. And once once it comes into implementation, hopefully you should be done. There are newer avenues opening.
All right, now let me, as we try to wrap up this conversation, let me ask you, and because you mentioned this, that there are other issues that might crop up. One of the issues I want to put on the table, of course, is CBAM. As we move towards a deal with the EU, the CBAM regulations are also coming, and that is supposed to, or is most likely to going to hurt our iron and steel businesses quite significantly. How do you see these kind of barriers that are cropping up, especially in the EU? These sort of, green related barriers, so to speak, are something that we are worried about. And of course, discussions and deliberations are on. But I wonder how you see this as barriers to effectively building the sort of FTA regime, the new FTA regime, so to speak, that we are trying to construct around the world.
See, here I can give my own gut feeling or perspective. I would say that some of these issues, some of the sectors which have the maximum issues of sustainability would be steel, cement, and such steel, cement, aluminum, and such products. And green need for green steel, green cement, and all are becoming paramount. But these would be, a lot of people are saying that once even once these FTAs are signed, because of these restrictions, the exports would be impeded. So what we probably need to do is to work now on the back end a bit, and there would be, steel, cement would have some public sector units also, steel, cement, aluminum, and they, a lot of investment on the sustainability issues, green issues. I know for once that there's a lot of work, like even in Exim Bank, there's a lot of work being done on sustainability finance. A lot of huge amounts of money has been raised through sustainability bonds, and there would be other similar organizations. But and there's a lot of funding to MSME, to a lot of what we call the Ubharte Sitare program and things like that, emerging areas, people and companies which are doing well in the sustainability and responsible business practices area. But I still feel this has to be disseminated at the PSU level, especially for steel, cement, aluminum, such companies, and they have to be properly trained, equipped, and investment done to go in for the green part of it. So that should be a key priority area. The way, non-conventional energy is now being promoted in a huge way. Just now I read an article, apparently now 50% of our energy requirements is coming from non-conventional energy. Similarly, we should now see to it that we adhere to these sustainability standards and look at these products. Because unless these are addressed, I don't think our sustainability problems will get over, because these are major polluting industries as of now.
Okay, my last question then. Like I said, India is also trying to build a whole new regime of FTAs, negotiating FTAs in various parts of the world. We began with this great deal in Australia. Now, of course, UK has come into being in between with its Scandinavia, UAE, and now, of course, we're also looking at EU and so on and so forth. Talk to me a little bit about how you see this new regime. We used to have FTAs in the past, but there was a lot of debate that they didn't work very well and so on and so forth. How do you see this new regime of FTAs that India is constructing?
See, in the new regime, whatever was the thinking in the beginning, and we have seen some of those impacts, but now I think it was understood that if we have to survive in the world, we have to have these kind of FTAs. So it started with, UAE, which I think was negotiated within I was there in Commerce and DPIT. It was negotiated within a period of 3 months, then Australia, and now UK, and so many others, New Zealand, Peru, Chile, and so many others. I'm no longer in Commerce Ministry, so can't. But some of the newer things which have happened is they have become much more inclusive. Many more stakeholder consultations are held. Even within Government of India, it's no longer. Just one minute. Even within Government of India, it's no longer the Commerce Ministry. All other departments are all other departments are involved, huge amount of stakeholder consultations for each and every FTA. So more inclusive, more how do I say, consensus oriented, trying to balance out all the interests has become a critical area. So that is probably why we are doing better. I mean, I know from UAE export, while imports have increased, exports have also increased. Similarly for Australia, and one more thing, sorry, there have been lot of workshops and lot of how do I put it, being held. UK, somebody told me UK FTA, there's 1,000 events are being planned. So people are being taught how to utilize this FTAs. Hindol, you would know. It's not only the MFN route. It has to be
Well,
now. Exporters have to learn how to utilize these FTAs. As a one thing I forgot to.
outreach is a critical. Outreach is critical in
Yeah.
this. Without outreach,
Hmm.
you wouldn't use it. Yes.
One thing I forgot to mention during the discussions and all, when we were talking about US exports, see, say one product which may be affected is while in our agriculture, products like, there are again inelastic demand for products like honey and all. Fine. But products like shrimp and all may be affected. But we have to remember, probably Ecuador, countries like Ecuador will be, or Vietnam would be our competitors. But for them also to scale up production and going for very large scale exports, taking advantage this 5% differential. Basically, this 5% differential is what we should look at, how to promote quality, go in for move up the value chain, go in for alternate sources, better working capital, and so on. So other countries taking advantage. Even leather, there was discussion. It's not only leather. Now there are a lot of non-leather products. So other countries taking advantage will also not be so immediate. That is the point we are trying to make. Probably gives us some amount of breathing space and elbow room to work out our, I would say, the back end part of it, so that the exports become more competitive and continue to be demanded in spite of higher tariffs till a mutually consensual solution is found.
On that optimistic note, we'll have to leave it at that. Rupa Dutta, thanks very much indeed, former economic advisor to the Ministry of Commerce, Government of India, talking to me on what to expect from Trump's tariffs and indeed the FTAs that India is constructing around the world. Thanks very much indeed for your time, ma'am.
Thank you, Hindol. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.